Hello everybody and welcome back to part 2 of my reaction to the Warning documentary, TIDAL Rising. Very cool so far, really getting to know them as individuals and as a band and their kind of family roots. Let's just crack on straight back into it and keep on learning. Beautiful stuff.
Of course, like any type of siblings, like we have our disagreements and our little fights and stuff like that, but we get along really well.
We know each other so well that we know how to make it work.
Exactly. And in the second that we start writing music, everything just flows really nicely. Like, I don't know what to call it except like sibling magic.
Yeah.
That's something I've always kind of wondered about, I'm not sure, with family bands. Like, what is it like? Because I guess it has to go in the right way, because I think if I was trying to make a band with my siblings, we would argue like crazy. I think the difficult thing with family is that, like, because you were toddlers, you know, babies, whatever, kids growing up together, you kind of hold on to those things and in some way still see each other as those children and don't always fully know each other as adults. Though I suppose these guys are really close, so they've seen kind of every stage. They haven't like gone apart for like 5 years and changed and then come back together. And you know, I think that's where the difficulty comes in. But I can imagine it really going one or two ways with a family band where everybody's like brothers, sisters, you know, cousins or whatever. Either you have this magic or just complete conflict. So I'm very happy for these guys that it went in the right way, and they've kind of learned how to kind of mitigate and manage any sibling rivalry or difficulty, you know, and just kind of operate in the best way possible. I suppose it helps they're all kind of different ages. If they were all like twins, it might be harder because they might be more competitive, but there seems to be a very nurturing, supportive kind of feel in this band.
Escape the Mind, those were our first compositions ever. It was our first time writing. I was like 12, Danny was 14, and I was 9. We were children. But it was the moment where we really fell in love with music and like what we wanted to do. Like, creating something was just such a powerful experience.
And you know, it was such a key thing, I think, personally, that we were not thinking about will people like it, because we were not going to release it. We were not even going to record it. It was not going to be a thing. So we just literally wrote from our 14-year-old hearts.
And I walk unto the very top, and I'll run, even though I stumble.
And then we jump into our first album, 21st Century Blood. And it was weird because some of the compositions that are in 21st Century Blood were written in the same time as Escape the Mind. But there was this very big leap we gave with this song that we made called Free Falling.
It was the first song we actually wrote
Together.
Yeah. And you know, it was also a big thing that we started like looking for outside inspiration. We really like what's happening in the world that we can write about.
And more than anything, like, we read so much and we consume a lot of media, as any Gen Z teen does. So we were constantly getting inspired by other stories that we were hearing. So 21st Century Blood was like, we felt like it was our first step. You know, like, okay, we're a band now. This is our album.
And nothing will change. I'm crashing through space. I'm burning up, and there's nothing I can put out to sleep.
And one one thing that I really like that we do, we really looked for what the song needed. We were like, okay, so what if this is a song with only piano, violins, and stuff like that? Like, we didn't focus on, oh, we have to be rock. We just focused on the energy that went into the song. So if you hear our music, sometimes it will be very varied within the same album.
But then Queen of the Murder Scene comes. It's our second album, and Queen of the Murder Scene. I was in middle school. I started going through my emo phase, so you can hear it clearly there how that shift and like I'm angsty now.
These songs and these albums like grew with us. It's literally, you can see like the change.
Yeah,
in
you can feel the
personality.
Yeah,
Our
and
music.
Queen of the Murder Scene is a concept album. It tells a story.
A novel.
Yeah, it was like a novel, and it was a really different process writing songs to fit a narrative and a plot.
It was really hard.
It was hard because we had some, and then we had to add like the filler episodes, but we didn't want them to feel like filler songs. So we really had to put meaning into every single little part.
That's so cool, because usually with bands, obviously you start kind of writing together as adults, and you know, obviously you go through a lot of changes as an adult. Things, you know, there's love and loss and just kind of just general development. But if you start writing when you're a kid, the amount of development between the age of like 10 and 20 is huge, so huge. So it must have been interesting kind of going on that journey musically, keeping a kind of cohesive sound while taking in these new influences and these new feelings and these like, you know, because when I was a teenager, one week I was into indie music, the next week I was into emo, the next week I was a goth, like I was all over the place. So I can imagine it must have been interesting to kind of navigate for these guys going through every kind of different age and like keeping on that same path while evolving and developing in the same direction and not evolving and developing apart from each other. Really, really interesting.
Some, and then we had to add like the filler episodes, but we didn't want them to feel like filler songs. So we really had to put meaning into every single little part. But I was like really into this idea of making it a whole album about this story.
Yeah.
And when I told them about it, they were like, what?
Why is there blood everywhere?
Why? I was like, please hear me out.
We had to change
so much.
like
the
a lot of the
story.
storyline because it wasn't even
wasn't
that
like
much
that.
of a storyline.
It was just like
murder.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
you were getting into.
I was getting into K-pop.
That's true.
I just remember that too.
We took the emo phase K-pop like
Route.
express line, right?
Yeah.
So you can hear a lot of influences in there that maybe you don't pinpoint them as such, but for us it's really apparent like which phases we were going
That key
through.
change into
Those
one.
key
Like,
changes, those harmonies, like it was all very K-pop-y for us.
it's a thing that we also love to do.
That makes me so happy because the first reaction video I did to The Warning, I was kind of going through what I thought their influences were, and one thing I said was potentially K-pop, and a lot of people jumped in the comments and went, absolutely not. There's no K-pop in this at all. But now, and what I said where I was hearing it was the harmonies, and so I feel redeemed, exonerated to find out that K-pop was an influence here. And it's interesting that K-pop came in as an influence at the same time as emo, because I can see some parallels there. They're both kind of pop orientated, and they're both kind of dramatic, you know, and that there are some sort of parallels between these genres. And so if you kind of take K-pop, give them all black fringes and give them electric guitars and stuff, you know, a little couple of tweaks here and there, you're not too far away from getting any emo band, right? So that makes a lot of sense. Just giving myself a pat on the head there, really.
That as we start learning new ways of doing this, we just like, okay, what's the next thing that we can try out with our music?
Yeah.
So
And
it's very fun.
in Queen of the Murder Scene, it was key changes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was
Definitely.
change the key.
That was the theme.
Coming from Queen of the Murder Scene, things are really different now. Because I feel like we really grew as people,
Even
as
more,
musicians.
like
right?
from those
Because
two.
we're going through our teenage years. Of course, you grow a lot from one year to another, and you start living different experiences and stuff like that. So I feel like this third album is personal.
Yeah.
Like it talks more about our feelings or situations that are close to us, or our opinions on certain situations.
Okay, before we get into this new era, because I feel like we've kind of ended a section here and we're coming into a new one. In that live performance there, I was hearing a little bit of an influence from, it was a little bit more punk. I'm hearing a bit more like Brody Doll, like the Distillers. If you want to check them out, they're an Australian band, and Brody is a bit heavy, it's a lot heavier than this, but it's like quite like gritty, old school kind of driving American kind of punk. And yeah, like she has a killer voice, Brody Doll, but I wonder if they listened to that a little bit there as well. It had just a little bit of that more punky kind of safety pin in through the ear kind of feel to it. Okay guys, that's the end of part 2. Stay tuned for part 3 and we'll continue this journey down the Warning rabbit hole and this awesome documentary and just carry on learning. Excited to get into the Mayday sphere of this, and yeah. Oh man, if you want to send me any requests for any other documentaries, and if you want to send any requests over Buy Me a Coffee for like music video reactions or anything like that as well, head over to Peace Beats with Dan Blackwell and I'll be doing music video reactions to The Warning on there as well. Alright guys, take care. As always, peace and love.